Hey guys, welcome back to the channel and to a new video. So some days ago I told you that I was gonna move my mail server to Linode, and this is what I could do yesterday because my domain is finally free and I could move it to another registrar which allows me to set private DNS. So I'm going to show you in this video how you can do that as well if you want to do that, and also how you can install WordPress so that you can have the mail server and the website on the same Linode. So let's get going here and switch over to my desktop. And as you can see here, I have two Linodes. One is the one with Cyberpanel, and the other one is the one which has Nextcloud. So what I'm going to show you in this video, it's going to depend, of course, also on your registrar. So you need to have a registrar which allows you to set personal or custom DNS. For example, I have one domain by GoDaddy which allows me to do that. I think they are called custom host names. By Namecheap is also possible, by Bluehost is also possible, by other registrars, I don't know. For example, my previous registrar, which is a Swiss registrar, was not allowing me to do that, so that's why I had to move it to a registrar which allows me to set private or custom DNS. And so this is how I did it. So here on Linode you have two choices, you have two ways to install Cyberpanel. One is to go to the marketplace and then select the app here from the list, which is here, Cyberpanel. And then you can scroll down here and select the image. Now Cyberpanel will work on CentOS 8 and CentOS 7 or Ubuntu 20.04 and 18.04 LTS. So you can choose one of these images here and then select the region and then select the Linode plan that you want to use. You can select, for example, the first one here for $5. It's going to give you 25 gigabytes. And for a personal website and a small mail server, this should be actually enough. And then you can set a label here for the Linode and also a password for the root user for SSH access. And then you can click create Linode, and after that you'll need to wait between 10 and 15 minutes before the installation is finished, because it needs to provision the Linode first and then install Cyberpanel on top of it. So this is one way, and it's probably the easiest way to do it. The way I did it though is slightly different because I want to install actually Cyberpanel manually. So what I did, I went to create and then Linode, and then I selected actually for the list here, I selected Ubuntu 20.04 LTS, and then selected a region. In my case, I went for Frankfurt because it's the closest one to me. And I selected the Nanode here, the smallest plan available. And I will leave the label here as it is. And I will set here my root password for SSH access. And I don't need for now backups and private IP. And then you click create Linode. Now I did it this way because I wanted to make sure to download actually Cyberpanel directly from the Cyberpanel website to have the latest image available. I'm not sure if Linode actually is offering the latest image, but just I wanted to be sure. And so I downloaded basically Cyberpanel manually. So you can see here we are assigned already the IPv4 address and the IPv6 address. And we're going to need these afterwards to set up our name servers by Linode. But before doing that, let's wait for the Linode here to boot up. And we will need to first upgrade or update, better said, our server to make sure that we have the latest packages. We will need to create a user for the server, which is going to be used mostly for server maintenance, because to install Cyberpanel, you need to be actually a root user. And we're going to change also some files on the server before rebooting, and then we're going to install Cyberpanel. Now it's going to take a moment here to boot up, and there you go. You can see now the Linode is up and running. So I'm going to copy this command here, which is the SSH command for the root user. I'm going to switch to my terminal. So let me paste in the command here and hit enter, and I can type in yes and enter the sudo password and then hit enter. And we should be logging in into our server. There you go. We are now in Ubuntu 20.04. So first thing first, let's update our system. So apt update. To check for updates, I think we have something like 30 packages or something like that when I updated actually the server yesterday. So it shouldn't be much different today. And you can see that we have 28 packages. So let's upgrade the system. So apt dist -upgrade and hit enter. So it's going to take a moment here, accept the defaults. Now it's going to take maybe 1 or 2 minutes to upgrade the packages. So I'll pause the video here, guys, and I'll be back with you once it's done. So here we go. The upgrade is now finished. So we have still a couple of things to take care of. First, let's create a user for the system. We're going to use this user probably mainly for server maintenance when it's needed. So let's type in add user, and I'm going to create a user with my name here and enter a new password and retype it. I can enter here my full name, and then for the rest I'm going to accept the defaults here. There we go. So the next step would be also to change our host name, because localhost is not really descriptive. So let's do this by typing in host name ctl and then set-hostname, and I'm going to call my machine AF links because it's the domain that I'm going to use for this demo. And I'm going to change also the hosts files, so nano/etc/hosts. And I'm going to go down one line here and paste in what I copied in before from Linode. I'm just going to remove here the SSH part and leave the IP here and enter as a domain here eflinks.xyz, because that's the domain I will use for this demo. Then I can save and exit. And before rebooting the server, we can actually already install Cyberpanel because we will have to reboot it afterwards anyway. So let me go back to the browser here. And let me switch over here to the Cyberpanel website, which I will leave a link to it in the video description below. And we need to basically here copy one command. And that's the one where it says install Cyberpanel, not the enterprise version, but the first one here. So we're just gonna copy this here and then go back to our terminal and paste that in and then hit enter. Now it's going to download the first package and it's going to check, of course, again for upgrades, but we will need to restart the system afterwards anyway. And now we are asked what we want to do. So we want to install Cyberpanel. So that's option number 1. And we want to install Cyberpanel with Open Lightspeed. That's the free version. So I'm going to type in 1 again here. And we want to install the full service. So I'm just going to accept the default. And do you want to use a remote MySQL? No, because the SQL will be on this server. So I'm just going to default here by no. And I'm going to press enter here to continue with the latest version. And by default, the admin password is 123456, which is not really secure. So we need to set one. So I'm going to press S here and then set a new password and retype it. And do we want to install the memcached extension and backend? Yes. And the same goes also for Redis. You might have seen these also when we installed Nextcloud. And do we want to use Watchdog? So I'm not going to mess up with Watchdog, so I'm just going to accept the default here by hitting Y and hit enter. So now it's going to take some time because we need to install the whole Cyberpanel. This is usually taking about 10 minutes. So in the meantime, what we can do, we can actually set up our registrar. So let me go back to my Linode panel, which is right here. And let me copy here the IPv4 address. Now, the registrar I'm using for this demo is Namecheap. I have another test domain on GoDaddy, but for this one, I'm going to use Namecheap. So let me switch over there. And as you can see, I have my domain here. It's called eflinks.xyz. I have also my other 2 domains here, and I have some other test domains by GoDaddy. If you want to test these things out, you can buy an XYZ domain for $1, which is extremely cheap. And you can test these things out before you're going to do it on a domain that you're using. So as I said before, this is going to depend, of course, a lot from your registrar. So you need to have a registrar which allows you to set custom DNS or personal DNS. It depends really on the registrar how it's called. By GoDaddy, as I said before, it's called custom hostname. By Namecheap, it's called custom DNS. So what we're going to do here, we're going to click manage. And then we're going to go to advanced DNS. We need to check here the name server. Now, if I click search, you can see I have already some name servers that I set up manually before, and it's called ns1 eflinks.xyz and ns2 eflinks.xyz, and they point to a domain, to an IP actually. So what I need to do in my case, I need to actually replace this IP with the one that I just copied from Linode, and I'm going to do the same here for the second server. If you don't have anything in here, you just go to custom name servers here and then click add name server. And you're going to call it NS1 and NS2 and then add the IPv4 address as I did now. Then once you have done that, we can click here the green check marks, and it's going to take a couple of seconds before the changes are going to take effect. And there you go, this is done. Then after this, we need to go back here to the domain, to the main domain page. And it's going to be the same also in another registrar. And you need to set here the custom DNS. So the custom DNS is going to be ns1eflinks.xyz. These are going to be the records that we're going to put also in our Cyberpanel afterwards. So this is all there is to it here in Namecheap or to your registrar. So we can switch over again to our terminal and see how the installation is going. And you can see it's still ongoing. So this is going to take still good 5-6 minutes. So I'm going to pause the video here, guys, and I'll be back with you once it's finished. Here you go, guys. The installation is now done. Cyberpanel is now installed, and it's telling us a few informations here, how we can access it. You can see here, we can access it through our IP and the 1890 port, which is the default port for Cyberpanel. And it's telling us to open eventually these ports on the firewall. Now, it's telling us also here to restart the server. So let me actually do this by typing in Y and hit enter. And while it's rebooting, actually, let me also tell you that if you're planning to have a mail server here on Linode, you have to actually contact the customer support once you set up your mail server, because by default, the SMTP ports on Linode are actually blocked. So if you're planning to send email, you should set up your mail server, and after that, contact the customer support and tell them that you would like to send email through your mail server so that they will open the ports for you. I had to do this as well. It took literally not more than 30 minutes to get this done. So you'll have to know this, otherwise you won't be able to send any mail once you set up Cyberpanel if you don't contact the customer support. So let's go back to our Linode here, and you can see now it's up and running. So what we can do here, we can copy our address and open up a new tab here, and we can paste this in and colo 8090 and hit enter. So we have a warning here. That's fine because we don't have a secure connection. So we can just click advanced here and accept the risk. And if everything went well, we should be greeted by Cyberpanel. And here we are. So let's type in here admin and the password we gave to the admin user during the installation. And now we are logging into Cyberpanel. And there you go. We are now in Cyberpanel. So we have still something to configure here. So let's go ahead and do that. The first thing, absolute first thing we need to do is to create a website. Doesn't mean necessarily WordPress. We just need to have a website so that we can then create the DNS zone for this domain. So let's go ahead and do that. Let's go to websites here and then create website. Now, the package is the only one we have here in Cyberpanel. It's this one right here where it says packages. I'm going to show you this in a second because there are some things you need to change. So I'm going to select the default package, which is the only one. The owner is the admin user. It's the only one I have. Now, the domain name that I want to use here is eflinks.xyz. That's the one we saw before. The admin address is admin@eflinux.com. And for the PHP version here, I'm going to select 7.4 because I want to make sure that the plugins on WordPress are going to be compatible with PHP. And then I'm going to select here DKIM support. Now these checkboxes here are not correctly scaled. It doesn't matter. We have SSL, which I'm not going to check yet because we don't have the domain yet on. And I checked here DKIM support, which is going to help us set up our mail server. And the other two, I will let them empty because the mail server is going to be created automatically anywhere afterwards. So then just create website. And it's going to take a second to do this. It's going to create also the DNS records. And after this is done, we are going to be able to create also our DNS zone. So this is done. So we can go now to DNS here and create a name server. So the domain name, as we know already, it's eflinks.xyz. The first name server is the one that we define in our registrar, which was in my case ns1.eflinks.xyz. The IP address is the one we copied before from our Linode. Then the second name server, the backup name server, is ns2.eflinks.xyz. And the IP address is of course the same. And then we can click create name server. And there you go, our name servers are now created. So what we can do now, we can actually install WordPress on our website. So let's go back to websites here and list websites. Now let's go to manage here. It's going to open up a new panel where we can scroll down. But before I do that, let me actually show you one thing here. You can see what's happening. So disk usage, we have 1 megabyte used of 1000 megabytes, so 1 gigabyte allowed. You might ask, why is it actually 1 gigabyte? The Linode is 25 gigs. This is actually goes back to the default package that we saw before, and that's the one right here. So if I click on packages, and if I click list packages, you will see I have only one package here, which is called default. Now I can edit this package or click modify package here, it doesn't matter. And you can see why. So the disk space on this package is limited to 1000 megabytes. So if you want to change this, let's say I want to make it, for example, 20 gigabytes, I can type in here 20,000. There you go. And for the bandwidth, maybe I go for 30,000. This is going to depend, of course, also on your Linode plan. And then click save. And there you go. Then if we go again to our websites, and I'm going to click again, or let me check, maybe I have already the website open somewhere. I think it's this one right here. And if I click again manage, you can see now we have the disk usage and bandwidth are now correctly selected. So we can go down now, we can scroll down here and install WordPress and LS Cache. So we need to give a title to the site. So I'm going to call my eflinks.xyz. The login user, this is for the WordPress installation, is going to be my name. You can choose, of course, whichever you want. And for the admin address, I'm going to use admin@eflinux.com. And for the path, I'm going to leave it empty. So I'm just going to click install now. And this is going to install WordPress on our website. So let's see, it's going to take a moment to do that. And then we can try and see if the DNS actually propagated already. We might be able to visit the website with our domain name. If not, we'll probably have to wait, but I think it's going to be fine. It's going to depend, of course, also on your ISP. So let's go ahead and see what happens. So let's open up a new tab here and type in here eflinks.xyz and hit enter. And as you can see, it's already working. So we have our WordPress here installation, which is working fine. The only thing is that we don't have SSL installed, so the connection is not secure, but we are going to change this right now. So let's go back here to the Cyberpanel and go to SSL. And let's click to manage SSL. And let's select our website here and click issue SSL. So this is going to take also a couple of seconds, and this SSL is specifically going to be installed for our domain on WordPress. It has nothing to do with the mail server, which we still have to configure, and it has also nothing to do with the Cyberpanel website, because for that we need to actually install an extra SSL certificate, so that when you log into Cyberpanel from anywhere on the internet, you will have a secure access. So you can see now the SSL has been installed. So let's go back to our website here and let's try to reload this and see what happens. And you can see nothing happens, and that's because by default it's going to go to HTTP. But if I would have to change this to HTTPS:// you can see the padlock is working. So let's go back here to our Cyberpanel and let's close this up and go back to WordPress here. We need to go back to websites and list websites and manage. And what we need to do here, we need to go to rewrite rules here and select the template for force HTTP to HTTPS. And then click save rewrite rules, which is going to take also here a couple of seconds, not a big deal. Then after we have done that, we can go back to our website and we can actually this time just put in eflinks.xyz and hit enter. And you can see it goes directly to HTTPS. So now we have a fully working WordPress website. Now let's take care of our server, but first let me close some of these tabs here because I have too many tabs open in Cyberpanel. So let's go to email and create email. Now let's create here, let's select our website and create our email. So I'm going to type in here my name and select a password for this user and click create email. So it's going to take a second here, and now I have my personal email created on my mail server. However, it's still not working correctly because we haven't set up yet SSL for the mail server. So let's do that. Let's go to SSL and then mail server SSL. Select our website here and then click issue SSL. Now again, this is going to take a moment. It's going to create the SSL for the mail server explicitly, and that of course is going to take care of several problems for authentication when you are sending emails over the internet. Now this is now done. We have an SSL issued by Let's Encrypt. So let's go back to emails and list emails. We might have an error here, so let's click the domain. And you can see here what happens. So it says here SSL for email is not configured properly because we are using a self-signed certificate. So we can change this very easily by clicking here Fix Now, and it's going to take a second to do that. And here you can see already the data for your mail server. So you're going to need these if you want to use a mail client like Thunderbird, like Evolution, Outlook, Apple Mail, or any email client that supports IMAP. And there you go, it's now done. Now, before I proceed, let me go back shortly to Linode, because there is something we need to take care of. If we go under network here, we need to take care of reverse DNS down here. So we need to have this set to make sure that the domain is verified, especially when we are sending emails. So let's click here, edit rdns, and change this to eflinks.xyz, and then click save. So this is now done, so we can go back to our Cyberpanel, and let's go to email, and let's go to access webmail. So we have a webmail client here called Rainloop. So I'm going to enter here my address here and the password I selected, and then hit enter. And you can see we are logging in just fine. This is the web client for Rainloop for my email address. So let's go ahead here and send a message. So I'm going to click here new message and type in here one of my Gmail addresses that I almost never use. And I'm going to type in here test from the mail server. And here I'm going to type in hello from Cyberpanel. Maybe correct the typo here and then click send. There you go. So I'm going to check this on my address monitor here. You will probably not see anything, but I'm going to make sure that it's appearing, and then I'm going to reply back from there directly. And I can see test here from the mail server, hello from CP. So I'm going to answer back here, and I'm going to say here thanks and click send. So let's try to refresh our server here. And as you can see, we have the mail here coming back. So thanks. This is coming from my Gmail address, as you can see. So the mail server is working fine. Now, let me actually also show you something else that you need to be aware of, especially if you're working with WordPress afterwards. So let me go back here to the Cyberpanel right here. So you want to go down here to PHP and then edit PHP configs, because by default we have a very little PHP configuration. So if you choose 7.4, you can see the memory limit, it's 128, which is too small. So we need to change this to 512. The upload max file size, at least bump it up to 200, because if you are trying to upload plugins or photos to your blog, this might be a little bit too little. And also for the post max size, I'm going to go for 80. These are my values at least. You can of course change them to whatever you like, and then click Save Changes. And eventually then restart also PHP once this is done. So one last thing we need to do here before we wrap up this video is to actually install our hostname SSL. Let me show you what it is. So if you see here, we are logged in still in Cyberpanel using our IP, but that's not good. So let's log out from here. And let's type in here eflinks.xyz:8090, because we want to log in with our new domain here, and then hit enter. Now you can see we get still the warning, and you might say, why? We installed already SSL. Yes, we installed SSL, but that was SSL for our website, not for Cyberpanel. So let me click here, advance and accept. And I'll type in again my admin user and my password. So what we need to do here, we need to go to SSL again, and this time we use the hostname SSL. So let's click this. Select our website, not the mail server, but the website, and then click Issue SSL. Now this is going to make sure that the SSL is going to be issued for the domain and the Cyberpanel. So that means you will be able to log in into your Cyberpanel from anywhere in the world using an internet connection, and you will have a secure connection. So there you go, the SSL is now issued. So let's see, let's try to reload our page. And as you can see, now we are logged in with the padlock, so we can enter our Cyberpanel securely. So these are the differences between the three SSL certificates: the managed SSL for your website, hostname SSL for your Cyberpanel, and the mail server SSL is for your mail server. So this is all there is to it for installing Cyberpanel on Linode using then WordPress and the mail server. Now, if you try this out, let me know in the comments below how it's working for you. And if you have any question, let me also know in the comments below. As you know, I will try to answer you as soon as I can. And if you want to support my work, you can do so by becoming a Patreon. As you probably already know, I'm doing a live webinar with my Patreons once a month where we focus on one topic about Linux. And if you want, you can also donate via PayPal through my website as well. Thank you so much for watching the video, guys, and I'll see you very, very soon in the next one.